Yes. So we're on the last words, Zomar of Chizda, the bottom of Yud Aleph Amud Bey, Zomar of Chizda, and the Gemara before just was talking about a tinus lishos. It's such a thing as a partial tzom, a partial fast, not a complete fast. We'll leave it open. And now the Gemara is going to start the subject about a tinus lishos. In general, what we do nowadays, we call it a half a day. So people, they fast half a day, and then Dav Mincha, they say Anenu, and then they eat. And Agamar says no such thing. So the question is where we get it from. Someone told me it's Yerushalmi, but maybe that people rely on, but Agamar is going to say there's no such thing. We'll see the Gemara, and if anybody has different, so I'd like to hear. But the Gemara starts on the bottom, Amr of Chizda, and we jump to the top. How the Amrit, Masan the shows. The Gemara just finished saying that we do pass Masan the shows, and also you say Anenu also. You say it's Philistines that a person could say Anenu. So now Krista says, "Oh, damn it! The shows. Well, we said that you could make a partial fast only for hours. That's provided that he didn't eat anything until the night. So if he didn't eat anything until the night, so then it's a whole fast. Why is it a half a fast? If he didn't eat until the night, so then it's a full fast. What does it mean that it's a tanis shows that he doesn't eat the whole day? The Gemara says, that he had a change of mind. So Rashi explains that he didn't eat in the morning for no reason. He was busy. He didn't have a chance to eat. But it wasn't a tinus. Then he figured, I didn't eat already so long, might as well make it a fast day. So then he fasted the rest of the day, and that's considered, that's a tinus l'shos, because he made it an official fast only from halfway. The second half of the day is going to be a fast, but the case is that he didn't eat the whole day. But if he would have eaten the second half of the day, or he ate the first half of the day, that's not a tinus. Tinus has to be a full day. And then it's only considered tinus l'shos because he didn't make the Kabbalah. There was no Kabbalah yesterday. And today he decided in the middle of the day, I'm now going to fast the rest of the day. Yes, that has a validity. It becomes a tinus l'shos. You say Anenu. But it has to be that he didn't eat the whole day. So, and the Gemara says, this top line, and the line coming up in the next line, they're going to say it again. There's no such thing as having a half a day fast. It has to be a full day fast. A full day fast can sometimes be considered tinus l'shos because he didn't have the first half the same tinus. He just was busy. He didn't get a chance to eat anything. But if he didn't fast, if he ate during the day, then it's not considered a tinus.
So that the previous day by Mincha, he said that he's going to fast the next day. Half a day, that doesn't mean
right. The Agamara doesn't mean anything. Nowadays, people do that. They make half a day fast, and it's not based on Agamara. Agamara doesn't recognize such a thing. They told me that it's Yerushalmi, maybe. I didn't look into the halacha, and there is such a custom nowadays. Sometimes people make half a day fast. It's not.
Maybe it doesn't have a halacha of the times, but makes people more serious. They, makes like a half a day for limud.
Okay, so that's an invention, and it's not recognized as a. And you wouldn't say Anenu either. In Agamara, you wouldn't say Anenu with such a thing. It's not called a fast. Anenu seems to be. Do you say tefillas tinus? You don't say tefillas tinus. The Gemara says it's not called a tinus.
That I really see is every Shabbat. You're saying also.
People do it other times also. People make sometimes half a day fast. So in Agamara doesn't exist. I don't know why the Gemara says it again. Another member of Chisda seems to be the same thing over again. Any tinus that it doesn't come until the night, that he fasts until the end of the day, is not considered a tinus. So it seems to be the same thing over again. I'm not so. I didn't get a shot why the Gemara repeats it. If Chisda said two statements that to be seen to be the same thing. The Gemara is on this. The Gemara is going to try to show there is such a thing as a half a fast day. Meisvei. It says Anshe Mishmor Mesai V'lo Mashlimin. People of the Mishmor. So Mishmor means the Kohanim who have that week's shift. So even when there's going to be a public fast for a drought, Tanis Kishamim, but it says later on in the Mishnah is that they don't fast the whole day because they have to do the avodah. They won't have koach if they're going to fast. So they make a partial fast. So it says Farish in the Mishnah that such a thing is not V'lo Mashlimin. There's such a thing as having a partial fast. What are you saying that they have to not eat the whole day? The more instance, it's not really a fast. It's just to pain themselves. So what is that? So Rashi says a very nice thing, also, that it's only the Surah Nafshi and Tzibur. We said yesterday that the person is not supposed to separate himself from the Tzibur. If everybody's in pain, he also should be in pain. So at that, the Gemara says that if everybody is fasting, it's really a fast day. It's a drought and they make Tanis Kishomim, but the Kohanim are not going to fast because they have to do the Avodah. But they shouldn't ignore the fast completely. So they should do something in order to also join the Tzibur in their pain. but it doesn't have any validity of a tinus. It's not called a tinus. It's just to join the tzibur in their tzara, in their suffering. But the Gemara does not knock down Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda is right. There's no such thing as a partial fast. Over here, when they're doing it, only because the tzibur is fasting, so they want to do something to pain themselves, suffer together with them. Tashma, the Gemara is going to try a couple of times to show there is such a thing as a partial fast, after they fast, as we call it. Tashma, Dam Rav Elazar, Rav Tzadok, Ani B'nei Bonav Shel Sanoah ben Binyamin. Now from the grandchildren, the descendants of Sanoah ben Binyamin. So that's in the Mishnah times later on. It talks about different families that had a zechus to donate wood to the Beis Hamikdash on certain days, and that day was a yontif for them. So one of them was Sanoah ben Binyamin. That's in the Navi by Ezra. It talks about a certain family that came to Eretz Yisrael, and they donated wood, and they got a privilege every year that their family is allowed to donate wood, and they bought karbanos on that day. Pamachas, and the day of the yearly day was the 10th of Av. The 10th of Av was their day, that day was a yontif for them, and they would bring wood and bring karbanos, and usually it's the day after Tisha B'Av. But one time it came out on Shabbos. Pamachas chol Tisha B'Av yes Shabbos. So then everyone fasts on the next day, on Nidcha, and it came out that the fast of Tisha B'Av was on the Sunday, the 10th of Av, and it happens to be their yontif. For them it's a yontif, and everybody has Tisha B'Av. So the So the fast of Tisha B'Av was pushed off to Sunday, and we fasted without not a full fast. They fasted the Tisha B'Av fast, but they ate before the night because it was a yontif. So they didn't. So their yontif is docha Tisha B'Av. We just said the Eitzim, they had a zchus to bring wood on that day. The family of Sanoah ben Binyamin, and they had this yontif, that family yontif, and it overrides Tisha B'Av when it's a nidcha, because then it comes also on the 10th of Av. And when they said, but they fasted without completing it. So you just said there's no such thing. You said there's no such thing as half a day fast. The answer is the same thing. It was only because the whole tzibur is fasting, everybody else is fasting. So they don't want to separate themselves. They don't want to be proportional at tzibur. So they also fasted together with them. But not that there's any kind of din tinus if it's not a full day fast. Tashma, try number 3. Sometimes Rav Yochanan would say, I'm hereby in a fast. He accepted upon himself a fast day until I come home. And that means once he comes home, then he ate. He didn't fast the whole day. He fasted until he came home. So you see such a thing as a partial fast. He does that in order to avoid the nasi. The nasi invited him to eat, and he didn't want to eat by the nasi. So to have an excuse, he accepted upon himself a partial fast day. But it's not really a partial fast day. It's not an official fast day. That's not. If it's a partial fast day, it's nothing. Rashi even says he didn't even mean it. He just meant as an excuse. Without Rashi, I would have thought that it means that he accepted upon himself not to eat, but not in time. It's just not to eat. Like you could say, make an edit for anything, maybe. But Rashi says that it wasn't even anything. He's allowed to eat if he wants to. It just was a way of avoiding the Nasi's request.
Would he say that he was fasting?
He could say that he's fasting, but it was only because of his personal fast that he made that he's not. He's deciding.
He could say, "I'm fasting. I can't come to eat."
Right.
And it would be.
And it's true. It's true.
Even though it implies that he's going to fast for the rest of the day.
Right.
The whole day.
But not necessarily. But it could be such a thing. The person can make a partial fast, a personal thing. No, so I guess that maybe it's understood by people sometimes. He's doing it for Hadaki Shalom because he doesn't want to insult the Nasi, but he's calling it, I'm fasting, like you call everyday breakfast. What's breakfast? You're breaking your fast. So it's called that until you eat, it's called a fast, but it's not the halachic fast day. So he just meant to say that I'm going to be afflicting myself until, and then he said, I can't come because I'm in the middle of this affliction, even though he understood it differently. You can't do it to fool somebody on his cheshbon, but it wasn't on the cheshbon of the Nasi. I don't have to go visit him if I don't want to. But it would be uncomfortable and it would be maybe insulting to him. Yeah, so then he was allowed to do it. And he did it in a way that it wouldn't be insulting. Say, I'm not coming. He said, I'm fasting. And fasting meant his own personal fast that he made, not halachas of fasting. It's not considered a halachic fast. So that's the end of the Gemara. And that's the big surprise. There's no such thing as a half-a-day fast. The Gemara rejects. There's no such thing as a half-a-day fast. What people do today, sometimes, the Gemara doesn't recognize it. And someone told me, it's even Shalmi only, that people are relying on. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist, and they wouldn't say Anenu.
Can we use this? Who was it that did that?
Rabbi Yochanan.
Rabbi Yochanan. We could use that. Could we? For example, if somebody says, "Can I come for Shabbos?" and we have enough people that we can say, "Well, we're already full. I'm sorry, we can't have you." But it's really because we don't want that person there, or they're not right for the people that are going to be there. It wouldn't be a good combination.
So to say we're
Even
full.
though then maybe afterwards we would have. other
Well,
people.
the way the Gemara is doing it, it would say some kind of, when you say the word full, you have to make some kind of an
So
explanation
it
what the
would
word
have to
full
be
is.
full on
Full of
some
something.
level.
What are you full of? You have to be full. He is saying I'm a tinus, so you say it's not the halachic tinus. Okay, it's not the halachic tinus. It's my personal tinus that I invented, but it has to be something which
Okay,
is
the table is full, and then it turns out then in the end we ended up putting 2 tables.
okay.
That would be
Uh,
according to this.
Okay, so say the table is full. Whatever. The house is not full. The table is
Table's
full
full
table.
now. The next
Full-
one,
the full
we're gonna
table.
Talk about the
Something like
single
that.
table.
You wouldn't be allowed to do those things if it's on somebody's cheshbon. Like you're not allowed to steal with such kind of table. But here the case is that you
No,
are
it's
you
to
don't.
save,
Yeah, to say
embarrassment for
they're
the
very
person.
so I think that you are allowed to do such things. Yes.
It's a work for your family. It's not everything works for everybody. It's got to work for your family as well. It's gotta
So
be-
we finished the first sugya. That's about having a full day fast. No such thing as a partial fast. We do say, as that's to finish off. The Gemara comes out. Yes, Miss Anil shows there is such thing as a partial fast, but not the way we understand it. We understand the partial fast means you eat after the half a day. That no, a partial fast means that you don't eat the whole day. So why is it only a partial fast? That the Gemara said on top of the page. If he didn't eat the beginning of the day for no reason, he didn't have any food, he was busy, whatever, and then after he figures might as well make it a fast day the rest of the day. So then he doesn't eat for the rest of the day. That's considered a partial fast. He didn't eat the whole day, and it's a partial fast because it wasn't with a Kabbalah the day before. This was a Kabbalah now, and that's considered Musan L'Shosh. You say Anenu, but
A
he
day
didn't
fast
eat.
with a Kabbalah is considered a full fast.
If what?
A day fast
A whole day,
with a Kabbalah
day
would be-
before,
is
that's a full fast. That's a full fast.
So I said, this is
So-
just without Kabbalah.
So it has to have a Kabbalah.
And
Like
it
Gemara's
has to
going to say
go
right
throughout
now,
till
but the
sunset.
Kabbalah is going to be that the Kabbalah was from when he decided not to make a fast the rest of this day. That's considered a Kabbalah
Oh, that's a
And that's
Kabbalah now, but
considered-
that's a partial.
as a partial, but he has to have not eaten the whole day. So people don't do that. That doesn't happen. But people do a partial fast that the Gemara rejects. But they say it's based on the
They do it
Yerushalmi.
Monday, Thursday, sometimes, right?
What do they do Monday, Thursday?
Yeah.
They
People are
fast
regulars.
until after mincha maybe or
So
something.
these kind of things. Anytime you make a half a day
Maybe
fast,
cows, maybe.
whenever someone does a half a day fast, it's not the Gemara probably doesn't recognize it. Amar Shmuel, a new galacha. Kol tainish l'lokim v'lo l'bavod yom lav shmei tainish. Any tainish that did not have a Kabbalah that he accepted upon himself before the fast, before the day started, is not considered a tainish. Even if someone fasted the whole day, but he didn't accept upon himself the day before, it also doesn't have a din of a tainish. Be Yosef Mai, and if he made a tainish anyway, he didn't make a Kabbalah, but he just fasted. Is it something? Is it
What
worth
does
anything?
Yasiv mean?
Yashav. Yosef b'tainus. We call it Yosef. We call it Yosef.
Yashav.
Mai, is it anything? Rabbi Bashila, no, it's nothing. It's like a bellows full of wind. Means it's a garnish. There's nothing. It's like hot air. It's nothing. He just didn't eat for no reason. The whole thing we had before, the Tzurei Nafshe, the way Rashi and Rabbi Hanan explained, it's only if he's joining the tzibur. If the tzibur is fasting, so then there's a mila to join them in their suffering. But if he just, I'm going back on before, and that's
Yeah, I'm trying to understand those ones.
he's just painting himself. There's no mila to paint one's.
Shmutei
No, the Tzurei is earlier. But that the Gemara just meant that if the tzibur is suffering, so he should suffer together with them. But not that there's any mile that a person should suffer on his own. I'm just doing it for suffering. No such Gemara, according to Rashi and Echanan.
So
So
I thought Mesos Yesharim, although he says that there are people that do that, that's ridiculous, but sometimes, unless it's for like people who are doing tshuva or something, they may afflict themselves.
there's some kind of
for
affliction.
tshuva.
So saying it's
So
affliction.
here it wouldn't be a fast.
It'll be an affliction.
Huh?
It'll be an affliction of some sort. The same way that he would afflict himself by rolling in the snow or something
Would
like
Rabbi
that.
Bar Shila say that that's for nothing, or would he say, well, if it's for tshuva, that's something?
Could be. Emes Mekabale. When does the person have to accept the fast upon himself? When? It said the day before. When the day before? Rav Amar b'mincha, Shmuel Amar b'tfilas mincha. Rav says in the afternoon, and Shmuel says in the tefillah of the afternoon. That's the dafka during the Shemon Esrei. So according to Rav, it could be in the whole afternoon, and according to Shmuel, only in davening. And the Shulchan Aruch says like Shmuel that it should have to be in the davening. In the davening, the day before, it says sometimes I think there's a insert in the siddur. It says if someone wants to be a couple times, what he should say, and that's in the Shemon Esrei. Rav Amar b'mincha, Shmuel Amar b'tfilas mincha. Amar Yosef. It's more reasonable like Shmuel because he has a support to him from what it says in Megillas Tainus. We have Megillas Tainus a couple of times. Megillas Tainus is not Maseches Tainus. Maseches Tainus is all about fasting. Megillas Tainus is the days you're not supposed to fast because it's like a mini Yom Tov because different nisim that happened over there. Hanukkah and Purim also mentioned in Megillas Tainus, and there are many others. The Gemara says, but Megillas Tainus because of the Korban. But there's a Megillas Tainus. It's the first Torah Shebaal Peh that was written down. It's available in the bookstores. It's not in the regular Shas. And those are a list of dates that Yom Tovim happened. Over there says the date and it says the story that happened. Very interesting stories. And also Hanukkah and Purim are there in Megillas
Why didn't
Tainus.
it be compared to Shas?
They didn't print it together. I don't know. They didn't put it into the Daf Yomi.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's not part of the.
It's the first Torah Shebaal Peh that was written down.
Oh yeah. No, it's like it's giving you details to know when to do this, when there's a time, but it's not Allah.
It's not halachas again, but it says some halachas also. When the Gemara brings down those halachas, talks about it. If you're not allowed to fast, if you're not allowed to be maspid, the Sveidim, days before, days after.
It's saying it's like a calendar.
Yes, but then it has prices on it also that says the stories. Okay, but anyway, the Chsiv in Megillas Tainus, it says. Bellows that's full of air.
Oh, this is the type that he didn't say the.
As a garnished. It's another way of saying that it's a garnished. Mapucha demali zika. It's like a bellows that's full of wind. The Gemara said when the Makabal, the Rav says during the afternoon, Shmuel says during the Tfilas HaMincha, and then the Gemara's Rav Yosef brings the support to Shmuel from Megillas Tainus. Interesting, it says the word Dechsiv. It's usually don't say Dechsiv. You'd say Dechsiv only on Tanakh. And here it's not. It's a mish. It's a brisa. You don't have to say Dechsiv. Rashi points out because it's the first Torah Shebaal Peh that was written down, so they gave it the cover of saying Dechsiv. Going to say the Tanya also. Dechsiv in Megillas Tainus it says the following: Lahain kol inish the yesi alo yikadmas dena yaser. Therefore, lahain any person that has upon him beforehand yikadmas dena before this yaser. Now the Gemara here is very difficult, and just to make it easy, I'm just going to say that the Duke Sofrim changes the girsa and it makes it much easier. Rashi also seems to have like this. So on the first wide line, let's get on the screen. On the first wide line, to take out these four words, my love, yaser atzmo, to erase, then put those words in parentheses.
My love.
Yaser atzmo, those four words, and also the parentheses, like not to be gorisid, and then the word bit slow, you leave in, and then the next three words also to take out.
So where?
Three words, lo yaser atzmo. You take out those three words, it makes it much easier. I'm not saying it's going to be mamish a smooth ride, but it's easier. So the Gemara goes like this. Just to back up one line. Lahain kol inish diyesi alohi mikadmas dena yaser bitzlo. Right? That's how we're reading it. Lahain kol inish diyesi alohi mikadmas dena yaser bitzlo. The word slow means in davening, in tefillah. The Brisa says, if anybody, let's talk about the days you're not allowed to fast. But it says if somebody had a fast day that he already had accepted upon himself, he had like a series, he says he had a series of fasts. I'm going to fast every Monday and Thursday, or whatever it might be, for 10 days, Monday and Thursday. And he had those, and then it came out on the day, which is Megillas Tainus. You're not supposed to fast on that day, but he already had such a fast. So it says, if somebody had a fast upon him beforehand, Yaser Bitzlo, he should answer himself, he should prohibit himself in the tefillah. Means in the tefillah before that day, he should accept upon himself the fast. And then he does fast, even though there's a Megillas Tainus, but since he already had a series of fasts upon him and he accepted it upon himself the mincha before, it overrides Megillas Tainus. So the Brisa
himself what?
So we just said
Yaser Bitzlo. Right? We're taking out
Yaser Bitzlo.
That's what the Brisa says. It says that word. It says in the Brisa, Yaser Bitzlo, that he should answer himself in tefillah. So it says like Shmuel, that the chalos, the effect that the tainus is going to take effect is only if he answered himself the day before. If not, then the Megillas Tainus overrides it, that's not considered a fast. That makes it a bit easier. We're not going to read the parentheses that we put in, we're just going to skip it and go further. So it's a proof to Shmuel from Megillas Tainus that says that in order to accept upon himself some tainus, it has to be a bit slow. It has to be slow, like slosa.
In the mincha itself.
In the mincha, not in the tefillas mincha, not in the afternoon. It has to be tefillas mincha. The Gemara continues. Pligi that the gears is not so simple. Now the Gemara says that it's not so simple what it says over there. Pligi ba Rabbi Shimon Rabbi. It's a focus between Rabbi and Rabbi Shimon Rabbi. What the word in Megillas Taanis should read. Chadam yaser, it's slow. The Chadam yaser without it slow means now the Gemara is saying that it's not so simple. Even though the Gemara brought us support to Shmuel from the brisa that we have in Megillas Taanis that says but slow. But the Gemara says not so simple because there's machlokas of Chia and of Shimon Rebbe if you have that word or not. Some have it, some don't have it. If it doesn't say but slow, that just means that he's asa. If you say yasa means but slow, then it means whenever we say yasa, we're going to say he should answer himself in davening. So then kedamina, then it means that Rashi explains that he had already a series of tanesim that was upon him, and if he asks himself the mincha before in davening, so then he fasts. If not, not. But the man dama yaser without saying but slow mahi. What is going to be the pshat if you say that it doesn't have to have davening? And here the Gemara is saying that it doesn't even say that he has to accept it himself without davening. Yaser with an aleph would mean that he becomes aser, that he's not allowed. He doesn't eat. He's aser to eat, even though it's Megillas Taanis, he doesn't eat. So what does it have to do with before and after? If you say that the Bryce is coming to tell you that only if you made a Kabbalah the day before, the mincha before, yaser. It's coming out 2 points now. One is besides the word slow, do you have the word slow or not? Also, is it going to be yaser, which means he should aser himself, or yaser, that he becomes prohibited? He is prohibited. If he's prohibited, it means even without any kind of a Kabbalah. So then what does the Bryce mean if it's before and after? It just means yaser, that he should be aser. The Gemara finds over here that there's something about having that it's before or after. What does it mean in the case of having before? If you're talking about, the whole case is talking about that he had Tanesim before. Mahi, the Tanya, but Megillas Taanis. It says, now we're going to read a little bit more of what it said about this halacha, that if he had a Tainus on him before. Called Inish, the Yesi Alohi Bekadmas Dana, Yaser. This is the same thing as I said before. The here says the word Yaser without saying Yaser but slow. And the Bryce explains itself, what does it mean? Ketzad. There was somebody that accepted upon himself to fast every Monday and Thursday, the whole year. Every Monday and Thursday he's going to fast. And it came out on a day that it says in Megillas Taanis that you're not allowed to fast. So it comes out that according to this snapshot, it's not talking about later in history, something in our days nowadays, that if the days came out before the Megillas Taanis or not. Of course, that's the case, that he had the Taanis before the Sid of Taanesim before the Yontif came out. The point is to say, in time in history, back in history, when the Chachamim made this Gezerah of Megillas Taanis, they gave out Megillas Taanis, the days that you're not allowed to. If somebody had fast days upon him before the Chachamim made the Gezerah of Megillas Taanis, so then his fast days override Megillas Taanis. But if somebody accepted upon himself Tanesim after the Gezerah of Megillas Taanis, so then Megillas Taanis overrides and he doesn't fast. That's the end of the sugya. It's not an easy sugya. The gears is hard, and the concept is hard, and the way to more fix it up is
All
hard.
these Ya'asers with an aleph, or the first one with the two W, they're the same idea.
No, Yaser means he has to aser himself. Yaser means he becomes aser. Yaser means that he asers himself. It makes the Kabbalah in the day in the mincha before, in the tefillas mincha. And Yaser means he becomes aser. And here, according to the thing, Yaser, when does he become aser? If those Kabbalah's Taanis that he made of the whole series was before Chazal instituted this Megillas Taanis. But nowadays, once it's already after, then a person can't accept any more Tanesim because the Megillas Taanis is already in effect. That's the end of the sugya. I can't say that's clear, but just to end off the sugya, Shmuel says you have to make a Kabbalah during Mincha, and Rav says the whole afternoon is good. It doesn't have to be dafka during the Tefillas Mincha. The Shulchan Aruch says like Shmuel, that when a person is accepting to make a Tefillah, Taanis the next day, he says do it in Mincha. And you look in the Siddur, it has some Siddur at least, they have an insert if someone wants to make a Kabbalah Steinus, it says where to do it. But
if someone davens like I do the Mincha Gedolah,
so the
and then
Mishnah,
let's say something would happen during the day, and then I decide to take on a fast the next day, it would be just considered a half.
It wouldn't be considered a fast. It's not a fast. It's only
it would not be considered
a
a fast. It would just be a what?
It would, so either it's another. It's like the Gemara says, like a bellows of the right. The Gemara said without a Kabbalah, it's nothing, right?
No, but yeah. And then I thought that we said at the beginning of the day that at the beginning of the daf that it was like a
You're talking about a half.
About a half.
You're talking about a half. We're talking about a Kabbalah. You have to have a Kabbalah still. The Kabbalah has to be
So
before.
at 4
There are two
o'clock in the
sugyas.
afternoon, after I daven mincha, I want to make a Kabbalah. Tomorrow during the day, I won't fast.
But the Gemara says it's not considered a Kabbalah. Maybe according to Shmuel, it's not
Shmuel,
considered.
according to Shmuel,
Shmuel, it's not considered a Kabbalah. So if it's not a Kabbalah, then it's a nothing.
And,
And
According to-
and according to Rav, it's a something.
okay,
So that's the question. Who are you passing on?
according to Hashem,
The Hashem says whatever Rav and Shmuel say, figure it out. Hashem says to Am Yisrael, figure it out. So there's Rav and Shmuel machlokes. So the Shulchan Aruch says like Shmuel, which according to Shmuel, it's only good during mincha. If you didn't say during mincha, so then it's not like Kabbalah. So there's no fast day tomorrow. Rav says yes. The Mishnah brings down that b'di'eved you can be someone on Rav that you can make it also. Rabbi Varma, sir, he told me that it's better to daven again. Make a tefillas nedava, to make a voluntary davening. You daven mincha, make a voluntary davening. Daven again and accept it in the voluntary davening.
That's not, and as long as it's voluntary, it's not brachas.
It's not a bracha levatala. Really, you allowed to make it. You allowed to make a voluntary davening. Nowadays we don't because you might not have kavanah. We don't do that kind of thing. But there's a reason to. Then you're allowed to.
Oh,
If there's a reason to, if you want to make a fast, so then it will be the Mishnah Berurah says you could rely on Rabbi Diavad and make the Kabbalah before Shkia, even if it's not during davening. But if you want to do like the Shulchan Aruch, dafka during mincha, and you davened already, so daven again. The same nedava. New Gemara. Tana Rabbanan. It's getting easier now, so we get back on track. Tana Rabbanan. Ad masay ochel b'shosa. Till when are you allowed to eat? Means when it's a fast day, it starts in the morning. Some fast days, Tisha B'av, Yom Kippur, and Chamuros, it starts in the night already, from the beginning of the night. But usually a fast day only starts in the morning. When in the morning? Till when could you eat in the morning? So machlokis. Ad shalom shachar divrei Rebbe. Rav Shimon Omer ad kros hagever. Rebbe says until alos shachar, and Rav Elazar says till the rooster crows, which is earlier than that. We passing like Rebbe, so you have to remember that when you're allowed to eat until alos shachar. You look on the calendar, when is alos shachar, then you're allowed to eat. After that, you're not allowed to eat.
Sometimes roosters
The roosters.
crow in the middle of the night.
That's because we make them crazy with all the lights artificial lights that we have.
Oh, I see. We'd have
Is
to
that
go to
true?
a rooster.
Does anybody know in the dark nature at night, the roosters crows
Oh,
down
you
in the
mean
middle of
like
the night,
if we were out in the kafar,
Right,
then
and
that's
where
what.
there's no lights, so they don't.
Then when
They're mavchim b'yom layla. They're able to tell to discern the light. So then they shine light at them. So they
I
grow.
see. So when we say that bracha, it's not on a city rooster.
They're mavchim
That's
bein.
good to know. I wondered why.
They're mavchim bein or choshech, but they're giving them artificial light, so they grow. I don't know if I said it's true. That was my assumption.
Okay.
But we person like Rebbe that you're allowed to eat until Amar Shachar. Amar Abaye, lo shana v'lo shelo gama sudasa, but gama sudasa ain't no ochel. It's only if you're eating in the middle of the night. So then the machlokes, if you're allowed to, if you have to stop eating Amar Shachar or by the rooster crow. But if you ate and you finished eating already, even if it's earlier, you're not allowed to eat. Once you finish eating, you finish supper, and then you're not allowed to eat anymore, even though it's before all these times. Esvei, kasha from a brisa. Esvei, Rav has the kasha. It says in the brisa, Gama v'amar reza ochel. Even if you finished eating, you stood up from your eating, you're still allowed to eat as long as it didn't come to time. The Gemara says sasam kishalosi. Like that's if you didn't move away. You didn't move away to the table. That you're still sitting by the table. So then you still have in mind to eat. But once you move away from the table, or the table moves the table away, so then you have in mind that the fast is going to come. Not that, and you start fasting even though it didn't yet come the time of Amud Shachar. But we don't pass like that. We pass like the next line. That this halacha about the rooster crowing or Amud Shachar is only if you didn't go to sleep. Once you slept, then you're not allowed to eat, even if you wake up before Amud Shachar. And that's how we paskin that when a person the night before the fast day, so he's allowed to eat until Amud Shachar, but that's only if he didn't sleep. Or the poskim say that if he slept, but he had in mind, and he said, made a kavanah, made a tanah, he said, I'm going to eat. I still want to eat. Then it said, the poskim say that it helps even if he slept. But if he didn't make such a tanah, and he went to sleep, and he got up early, he cannot eat.
So he has to make it tonight
That he still wants to eat. Otherwise, if he goes to sleep, that means that he's starting to fast already.
Rules that way?
That's what it says on the one line up, Rava, and that's the Ikadam, that's how we paskin. The Brisa says different. Yashin Vamara Reza Ochel. That it says first, even if he slept, he's still allowed to eat until the time comes. So why are you saying they're not allowed to eat? The Moyen says Hassan bin Misnamim. That's only if he's only dozing off, he's drumming, then he's allowed to continue eating. But if your mamash fell asleep, then you're not allowed to eat, even though the time didn't come yet. What's called drumming, what's called dozing off, but it's not really sleeping. Amr Abashi, and Amr Beis, Nim, Velo Nim, Tir Velo Tir. The word literally means sleeping, not sleeping, up, not up, means something in between. He's a little bit up, but he's also sleeping. Nim lo nim, sleeping, not sleeping, tir v'lo tir, up and not up. Tekaro levani, when you call him, he answers. But lo yada ladu, as far he can't answer back any kind of a reasoning. If you ask something, it thinks you have to think into it. He's not there. But if you remind him of something that does things, so he'll remember. You ask him, where did you put something? Where's the telephone? He doesn't know. You tell him, did you put it in the drawer? Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's enough to be considered that he's not in a deep sleep. But if he can't do these things, he doesn't answer if you call him. And if you remind him about something he doesn't remember either, then he's sleep over sleep. That's called mamash sleeping.
Call someone sleeping chair.
That what? That he answers and he doesn't know svara. But if you remind him, he'll remember. Okay.
What's that? A Hadure Svara doesn't know Svara?
He doesn't know to return. Means if you ask him a question that needs thought to answer, he can't use. He doesn't. His thought process is not activated yet. He's enough to answer you when you call him, but he won't be able to activate his brain.
Who's this? This is the one
Who's dremeling. This is called dremeling.
That's called
It's not-
sleeping,
it's-
and that he wouldn't be able to eat.
That's called which one? If he's
he
not
can't, if he's
no, he's still considered only dremeling if you remind him and he remembers.
It's two parts.
If he's
The
we're
loyada,
trying to say that he's not mamish in the full. He's not in the full sleep. He's not
that's
considered
what we're
fully
trying to
sleeping.
say, he's not-
That he's sleeping, not sleeping, he's awake. That you call him, he answers, but he's not able to tell you a svara unless you remind him.
And that person,
That's called that he's still only dremeling. He's only dozing off, and he could continue to eat.
Oh, all that is
But if he
not
cannot,
sleeping.
right? If he's mamish telling his svara, then he's standing up, that he's fully awake. But even though he doesn't know how to say svara, but if you remind him, he does remember. That's good enough to be considered
Awake.
a bit enough that he's allowed to continue eating. He didn't. That's not called that he mamish fell asleep. This is the agdora of dozing off. So that's what we paskin, that the fast starts by Amud Shachar, and that's only provided that you didn't sleep. Even if you dozed off, it's okay. If it's only dozing, but once he fell asleep, he's not allowed to eat. And the poskim say that if you made it tonight, then it's good enough. Nice Gemara. Amar Rav Kana, new Gemara. Amar Rav Kana, third line. Amar Rav Kana Marav. Yachad shekibul alav tainus, asa b'nei l'sasando. Usually a tainus, you're not allowed to eat, but you're allowed to wear shoes and everything. But there is such a thing, we're going to see later on, that by a tainus tzibur, but it gets more and more severe, and the more it doesn't rain, so they make more chomor, and it's going to come to a level that he's not allowed to wear shoes and go back to not wash himself like the Chamisha Inuyim. So it says that if a yachid, even though a yachid accepted upon himself a tainus, maybe he meant to accept upon himself a tainus chamor, to make it like he's not allowed to wear shoes either. So that's what it says. Yachid shekibul tainus asta b'nei l'sasando. He's asked to wear shoes, and also the rest of the Inuyim. Maybe he meant to accept upon himself a chamor tainus. There's two kinds of tainusim. There's an easy tainus, there's the easy fast, that's only not eating, and there's a heavy fast, one that is also to do the chamesh inuyim, and also it starts from the night before. That's what it sounds like. So it says that if a yachid just said, I'm a kabel tainus, he meant to say a severe tainus. Hey, Chidlevitz, what should he do in order to avoid this problem? Amar Rabbi Bar Shila, he said the following. He should specify that he only wants to accept upon himself the easy tainus, which means the tainus yachid. The terminology here is called a tainus yachid means the easy one, and the tainus tzibur means the severe one. Even though you find that a tainus tzibur also could be a light one. The first three are considered light ones. But that's the terminology that people call it, tainus yachid, tainus tzibur. So it says that a person should, if he wants to accept upon himself the tainus, he should specify tainus yachid, that he shouldn't get involved in the problem. Maybe he meant a severe tainus. Next Gemara. Ambulei Rabbana le Rav Sheshes. The Chachamim said to Rav Sheshes, "Chazina Rabbana the Messiah Yesanai was the Beit Hanisa." This was talking about it was a tainus tzibur chamor. It was one of the, like we're going to see later on, that if they still didn't rain, so then they make another series of fast days. That's Asa B'nei L'Sasando, and that was the case over there. It didn't rain for a very long time, and they made exerted not to have a tainus tzibur, which usually means that you're not allowed to wear shoes either. No shoes, and what does it say? No anointing, no washing, no tashramita. It starts from the beginning of the night. And he says, I see Rabbana, they're coming to the shul and they're wearing shoes. They're wearing shoes. So what's happening? Ikbid, so Rav Sheshes was, I say Ikbid. He was some kind of angry. That means he was, anybody have a word to say that?
Then what?
That Rav Sheshes was Makbid. Okay? The English is good. He was upset. Amalahu.
He was abashed.
What does that mean?
Makpid.
Makpid. Okay. Amalahu. Dilma mechal nama yachal. Maybe they're eating also. Like if they're wearing shoes, means they're not mityaches. They're parchment at Sibor. The Sibor made a gzera to make a fast day. They're not supposed to wear shoes. They're wearing shoes. Maybe they're eating also. Like he made it sarcastically. So that's the question. The part that Sibor made a tinus that you have to not wear shoes, and they were wearing shoes. The Gemara continues. Why it might be? We'll see soon why. Maybe some people will make them not to wear shoes. They have to wear shoes, even though it was a tinus Sibor that they're not supposed to wear shoes. Abai Rabba, might be kimasami apanta. Abai Rabba, they would come into the Beit Hanisa. They would come to the shul of the tinus when they were wearing a panta. Taisa said a panta means they're wearing the upper without the bottom. It means that some kind of a pshara. They wore a shoe, but not a regular shoe. It wasn't a comfortable shoe. When they would come on, they would wear shoes, but they would change the right to the left to the right, that it shouldn't be comfortable. It means if you really want a lot to wear shoes, then it wouldn't help all these things. You're not allowed to wear shoes. It wouldn't make a difference to switch shoes and make it uncomfortable. But they made some kind of a compromise because it's not mamash to wear shoes. We'll see soon why.
Didn't the Gemara say that there's no Tan Sibur in Bovel?
Right. The Gemara is going to say that in two more lines. Right. You got what the Gemara is going to say. And my neighbor Mazutra Machati the middle is next one. The Banda Baby Rabashi Nafki Keo Chayu. The Banda Rabashi, they went regular shoes. And the question is, why regular shoes? That's what they want to say. What's this? Maybe you can eat also. That they hold that there's no din of a Tanis Tibur and Bovel means the Chomer, the severity, the Tanaisim that are severe, that you're not allowed to wear shoes and wash and all these things, that's only in Eretz Yisrael, not in Bovel. What's the difference? So we said Machlokes Rishonim, some say because in Bovel they don't need the water, so it's not fatal. Of course, it's a difference. They fast also all these 13 Tanaisim, but they don't make the level should be so severe that they are not allowed to wear shoes because it's not fatal, because they have rivers that collect even if there's no rainwater. And other Ramban says the reason is because there's no nasi that has the authority to be able to make exer on the whole Sibor, so it doesn't have that severity of a tiny Sibor. And they bring down these shittas also nowadays. The reason why also there's no tiny Sibor nowadays because they don't have the authority to make the Tanaisim. Yes, come on.
How about the Tanaisim Shel Kabbalah?
What about it? That's called it.
Kabbalah. Do they have to fast?
Yes, sure.
So it's just not the night before, right?
Yes.
So there's no Tanaisim.
We're talking about the Tanis Tibur. We're talking about the Chomer of Tanis of Tisha B'Av that starts with all these 5 Inuyim and everything. That doesn't exist in Babel. Even when they make Tanis Geshamim, it doesn't affect. So some say it's only because we have water. Places that have water, that would depend on what the tzara is. If it's a different tzara that doesn't have to do with water, so then they would have to. But the Ramban says it's only when there's a nasi that has the authority to make a gzer on the Sibur, then there has the Chomer of these 5 Inuyim. If not.
So not to be doing, I'm sorry, but for the Tanaisim of the Kabbalah, so everybody's in Chuyev, and we don't fast the night before except for Tisha B'Av.
Right.
And the Tanaisim in the Mishnah that we're talking about.
So he says there's 3, 7. That's what he said. There are different levels. So it says again. So the Mishnah says over there that the first 3 are Kal, and there's no such takana to start the fast at night. Then the next 3 is Chamor, and that's what we're talking about. That ain't that Tanis Tibur b'Bavel. Even though the Mishnah says so, that's somebody else as well, but not in Bavel. So if we would make such kind of Tanaisim, which we don't anyway, but if there be the whole series of Tanaisim, we don't make Tanaisim that are start at night. It doesn't have the Chomer. It doesn't have that severity of having the severity of Tisha B'Av.
So outside of Bavel, they fasted the night before, and the second Tanaisim.
And Eretz Yisrael. That's the point about Eretz Yisrael. Yes, the Bavel not. The question we said doesn't mean Bavel only because they have a lot of water, or any place where there's no nasi. That's the issue of the Rishonim. Next Gemara. Amrav Yudam Arav. New sugya. Lava Adam Taniso Parei. A person could borrow the tinus and pay back, which seems to say that even though there's a certain day he's supposed to fast, he can say today I'm not going to fast. I'll fast a different day. I'll pay back the fast. So the difficulty with that is if he has a certain date he's supposed to fast, then how could he say I'll pay it back a different day? So the post can say that it's not talking about a case where he's supposed to fast a certain day. If he had a Kabbalah, I'm going to fast tomorrow, he can't change it. The Gemara is not talking about that. So the post can say it's talking about a case where he had a Kabbalah to fast a certain amount of fast, or to fast a fast on a day, but he didn't specify which day. That's his general overlying Kabbalah that he's going to fast a certain day, a day, and then yesterday he was Makabal that I'm going to make this day to be the day or one of the days that I accepted upon myself. So then it could be that here is going to be flexible. Here he might be able to take it to a different day. That's how the post can say this. That's how it says in Shulchan Aruch. It doesn't fit so easy into the Gemara, but that's how it says in Shulchan Aruch, and that's the halacha. That a person, this halacha, that they can borrow a fast day and pay back a different day is not on one of the days of the official fast days, or not. That if he made a Kabbalah for this specific day, he said, this day I'm going to fast, tomorrow I'm going to fast, he can't change it anymore. He made a Kabbalah, neder, to fast on that day. But if he didn't make a specific day, he made in general, I'm going to fast a day, and then even though he said on the day before, tomorrow is going to be the day that I accepted upon myself, then there's a possibility that I could borrow or change his mind and pay a different day. So it doesn't happen too much. It means this halacha is not so relevant because people don't do this. Kamita Kamei de Shmuel, when, so who is this? Rav Yehuda got it from Rav, and then he went to learn by Shmuel. Kamita Kamei de Shmuel, when Rav Yehuda said over this halacha of Rav to Shmuel, Shmuel argued and said he doesn't even have to pay back either. Shmuel says here that he doesn't have to pay back, even though he accepted upon himself to fast. Shmuel Lachar argues on the whole halacha that even though he made a Kabbalah, the Kabbalah doesn't mean that he has to keep it. He can still retract it. Is it a neder? The losagid lo mashlam that he can't. That it's not enough that he doesn't pay it back. He has to pay back this loan. He does accept upon himself to pay himself. Here Shmuel is calling before till now we called l'tzurei nafshe when it was not a real fast. But here Shmuel calls even a real fast is also not a real fast. L'tzurei nafshe kibbul. The whole thing of a tainus is just to pain himself. Imotzi, Metzara nafshe. If he could, then he pains himself. Ilo motzi, lo Metzara nafshe. That in the lachatchilu, when he accepts upon himself to fast, he always means if I could. And if he can't, he's not going to. So according to Shmuel, if there came a reason why he can't fast for that day, he doesn't have to, and he doesn't have to pay it back either. We don't pass like that. We pass him that he does have to pay it back. The others have a different version in Shmuel. I'm Rav Yehuda Rav, same thing as Rav said, the same thing. Love Adam Tanis, a person could borrow a tainus and pay it back. And Shmuel agreed, not like the first Ikadamri that said he didn't agree, you don't have to pay it back. According to this lashon, he does have to pay it back. He didn't disagree. That's that goes without saying. Of course, he's allowed to borrow it. He has to pay back. Yeah, he has to pay back. And of course, he's allowed to borrow it. He doesn't have to fast after this day. Like any neder, it is a neder, but it's like a neder that he can do whenever he wants to. He didn't make a neder after for this day. So the Gemara is very vague, I think, that it doesn't talk about what the case was. So he said the case, according to the poskim, the Rishonim explained that the case that he made a general neder, he didn't say which day, he didn't say a specific day. He just said in general, I'm going to fast a certain amount of fasts. And then the day before he said, okay, tomorrow's going to be one of the days. That, the Gemara says he doesn't have to keep it after that day because his original neder was not limited to that specific day. So that's how we pass it, but it doesn't. That's saying it doesn't usually come out too much because we don't make such kind of neder on a general amount of days and then to fix which one it is. So
it says, let's say they have it started. So say I'm making it, I'm going to fast. And then afterwards
then they say which day they're going to fast. That'll be this case. So I think it does happen. The first people will do that. Okay.
Yeah, it's Mekel, even though he does say it'll be this day. That's interesting.
That's only because it's only continuing what the original follow was. There'll be a certain fast. There'll be fast. If he does with one day and say tomorrow I'm going to fast, so then it's tomorrow and you can't change it. Rabbi Shubei Javidi visited Ravasi. Abdullah Igla Tilsa. They made him a egel mishuleshes. That's a fancy meal. That was like a hush of a calf. Why is it called Tilsa? It's very expensive. Some say it's called the third born. Some say other pshatim over there. Why is it a third of its full growth, right? So whatever the pshat is something chashuv. And the person they talk about egel mishuleshes, ayal mishulash.
Oh, now I remember. Yosef said
also egel tilsa, right? They bring it right that it can't be the third born because over there it says they created one with Sefer Yitzira. They created the egel tilsa. You can't create. Maybe it means they created that kind of a quality, but it wasn't literally. Anyway, it's a chashuv meal. They made a chashuv for Yeshua Beit Davidi. Amulei litamar midis. So then they made a banquet for him. They said, eat something. I'm fasting. I can't eat. He hadn't had a fast day. So borrow and pay back a different day. Now eat and pay back the fast a different day. So according to what the poskim say, it's a very strange case. The case was where he made such a kind of a general Kabbalah that they knew that he made a general Kabbalah, and then the day before he said for that day.
Maybe I was thinking about that. Now I'm thinking maybe they were just trying.
Okay, possible.
What?
That maybe
Trying to on the side that he made such a Kabbalah that only that there's a way out, so they asked him to do that.
Mm-hmm. And the truth was that it was because he said there was a Tanas Chalom. Means he said really it was like that. So according to the way the poskim explained, the case would be only if you first made a general Kabbalah without specifying which day, and then yesterday said tomorrow's going to be the day, and then he has a right to be able to manipulate. That was the case over here. So they asked him, so why not do that? So they said it's Tanis Halom.
His time is very strict.
It has to do with
Of course,
Afghan
you can
that
even
day.
if I
So
fast
several
on
of them-
Shabbos.
Let's see.
It seems
Don't you hold like Rav that says that a person can borrow and pay back? Amalahu, yes, I do hold like that, but Tanis Halom. The reason I'm facing is because it's Tanis Halom. By the way, the postscript say Tanis Halom doesn't have to have a Kabbalah either. He didn't have a Kabbalah yesterday because he woke up at night. It's not a chiyuv. It's not a chiyuv. It's a eitzah. If someone wants to get, if he's worried about his dream, so this is a eitzah that he should be able to nullify the decree. He takes it. I don't know what's going to be. The post can talk about what Tanis Halom when a person should. It's not going to say that it's chayv to. The point is the way how to nullify the decree. So he said that the reason I'm facing is because Tanis Halom, so therefore I can't mess around. I can't do it a different day. But because at a fast, in order to destroy a bad dream, it's like a fire that destroys pishtan, which is very flammable. It just eats it up. And Rav Chisda said it's only if you fast that day, not a different day. He has to fast that day. So therefore I can't push it off. And Agav, Rav Yosef, Shabbos. People on Shabbos, such a kind of dream is allowed to fast on Shabbos also. But Mike, the Kante, how should he fix it up? They say, Tanisa, after he fasts on Shabbos, he should fast another day to make up for the problem that he fasted on Shabbos. He's not a fast on Shabbos, but still, it was a chilul Shabbos kind of thing that he profaned Shabbos. No, he had to.
Because it's on the day.
It was Tanis Halom, so he should do it.
And
Still do it.
This is one opinion.
It's
This
not
is
considered a
Rabbi
fast.
Chisda. Rabbi
No,
Yosef.
no.
To do it.
No one says differently. What's that?
Not considered a fast because it didn't make a Kabbalah because you only had the
So
dream.
for Tanis Halom it is. For Tanis Halom it is considered a fast. For Tanis Halom it is considered a fast.
Mostly says Anenu. If we want to be sharp, let's put Tanis Halom
Yes,
on
yes,
Tuesday.
yes.
Says Anenu.
Yes, even though there's no Kabbalah. Because it's an exception to the rule. Thank you.
It doesn't seem like it's how much does it have to be off? I don't think it was enough to.
If it looks off, then
Left a little off.
okay. If everything's good, so what
Well,
about
there's one thing, that means that this is the way it is.
if someone has a Tanis Halom, he's
Yes.
allowed to fast and adapt on that day, and it overrides Shabbos
we
even.
hold this on the day, we said that's like.
Yes, yes. No one argues on that. Well, beyond. The post can talk about which dreams is it kedai to fast on Shabbos. Not so simple. So that's in the post. If we have more time, we continue. That's the chazal so far. What we learned that the Tanish, the Agamor Bavli says no such thing as a partial fast. No such thing as what we call half a day fast. No such thing. It has to be that he fasted the whole day. The only way you can have the Tanish shows is if he didn't eat the first half of the day for no reason. He was running around. He had no time to eat, and then he figured he might as well fast. And then he fasted the rest of the day. That's called the Tainus L'Shos. And he says, Anenu. But what we call after they fast, that he eats after Mincha, that's nothing. According to the Bavli, they say maybe it's in the Yerushalmi. So people who do that is only based on the Yerushalmi, not on the Bavli. After that, it says you have to have a Kabbalah. You have to have a Kabbalah before. Machlokes if it means an afternoon before or the Filas HaMincha. And the Shulchan Aruch person like Shmuel has to be after doing Filas HaMincha. And the Mishnah says, but if somebody didn't during Mincha, he could accept even not like Mincha, like Rav. Some are machmer to daven again, tefillas and dava, in order to get the Kabbalah of Shmuel. After that, talks about till when could a person eat on the fast that starts in the morning. Machlokas if it's from Mura Shachar or from the rooster crow, he passes on Mura Shachar. But also the Gemara says that's only if he didn't sleep. Once he slept, then he's not allowed to eat even if he wakes up before Mura Shachar. And that the Gemara says if he's only dozing off, so then it's not considered sleeping and he still could eat. A person who said, I'm calling myself a Tainus, it's a dangerous way to say it because he might have meant the Tainus Tzibur. I think he's also to wear shoes and everything. So you should specify Tainus Yachid. I'm accepting I'm going to start with Tainus Yachid. That's what it says in the Siddur over there. There were people in Babel that were not machmir on a Tainus Tzibur, that really the whole Tzibur was accepting it. They're ready the second set of 3 and 7, and they're really not supposed to wear shoes, but they ain't a Tainus Tzibur for Babel. Some Rishonim say because there's water over there and it's not fatal. Some say because there's no Nasi to have the authority to make a gezerah on the tzibur. So they don't have the chomer of Tisha B'Av. It has regular fitting of a fast that only starts in the morning and there's no issue to wear shoes, etc. There's a thing of Adam that the person could buy one pay back. That the post can say that is only the case where he didn't specify specific, and he made a Kabbalah in general. I'm going to fast a certain day or a certain amount of days, and then the day before he said this day is going to be it. So then he has the option to be able to change it around. Otherwise, not. And the last thing the Gemara says was about Tainus Chalom, that has to be dafka on that day. Over here, there's no messing around. He can't push it off to a different day. Also, it comes out that he doesn't have to have a Kabbalah for that because he just had the dream.
Again, he
And,
doesn't have to, but if he wants to metakan it, that's.
Right. It's not, I don't think it's a chiyuv, but it means that if he wants to get out of the problem, that's the way to do it. Next Mishnah. Avu Eilu V'lo Nenu. We spoke about already that Shivas of Cheshvan, 17 Cheshvan, if it didn't rain, so the Yechidim start fasting. Kemesh Chodesh, 3 fast, Beis, then if Kemesh Chodesh Kislev, it still didn't rain, then everybody fasts Monday, Thursday, Monday. And those fasts means it's only a regular fast that starts in the morning, and there's no issue of wearing shoes, etc. But now, if it fasts, those 3 fasts, and it still did not rain, they make a second set of 3, and these are already Tani as Chamun. If this 3 fasts, and they still didn't get answered, it still didn't rain. Bezin goes and Gimel Tani Yosachar Samat Tzibur, then Bezin makes a decree of another set of 3 fasts, which is going to be more chamor. Shows him all young. Don't allow to eat until as long as it's still day. Means this is going to be a 24-hour fast. Once it comes night, they're not allowed to eat already. It's more chamor. Also, Asurim Malacha, they're not allowed to do Malacha on these fast days. And also, all the Inuit, they're not allowed to wash, anoint, wear shoes, and have relations. Also, no one is on Mechetzos. They close down the bathhouses, which is very similar to what I said Rechitza. It's us to wash. So, of course, should be closed. We'll talk about it, I think. A second set of 3. Again, besides the Yechidim, when it's still day.
He starts in the evening of the day before?
No, the way the Gemara says, he's allowed to eat. He eats when it's still day. He's all, like Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, that he's only allowed to eat when it's still day. Once it's night, once it's night, he's not allowed to eat. So we had already, just to keep up the number, we had 3 of the Yechidim from Cheshvan. So then the Yechidim started fasting. That's not on the count. But then starts on the Tzibur 3, which are Kal, and then another 3 which are Chamor. And now is going to be another 7. Avu Eilu V'lo Nenu, Bezin goes in Alein Od Sheva. Altogether, Shein Yud Gimel Tani Yosal Tzibur. If they still didn't get answered with rain, so then Bezin makes a series of 7 fasts, and altogether it's 13. 3 and 7. Besides the Yechidim altogether have 16 already, 16 fasts. So the regular tzibur had 3 that are easy, and then 3 that are severe, and then 7 that are even more severe. And now it's going to say the severity of the last 7. Altogether is 13. And these 7, they even Masriyan. Masriyan, we're going to see, it means with the shofar, whatever Masriyan means. Masriyan means to shout out. We'll see what that means. Masriyan is a higher level of fast. And Nolan and Sachanuyas also, they close down the stores, or it means
Before they'll work. What's the difference between working is in the fields and what are taniyot?
so it might mean food stores. It might mean stores that sell food. And here they close down the food stores also. The grocery
So it seems
stores.
opposite of what something intuitive, counterintuitive.
Why is it counterintuitive?
There's no
Before,
food, there's no water, and there's no food, and we should stop the malacha too. And then there's no rain, and there's no food, and we can't work, and we can't buy food.
this is a fast day. This is the day they're taking off
For
for a
this one
fast.
day. I
It's a
think.
day.
This one day to
The
show
Monday,
that we're
Mondays,
stopping everything.
Mondays
It's
and
too work.
Thursdays and Mondays
So it's in other words, just to align our hearts to Hashem.
to do tshuva. We'll get the rain.
Well, that,
Hashem should give us rain.
on Tisha B'Av, wait a minute, they see
That says Minhag HaMakom. The Mishnah says himself that it depends. Makom shenagu. That depends on Makom shenagu. The minhag is not. The minhag is not to do malacha till chatzos.
Meaning now, like you come.
Till chatzos.
I think, if I understand correctly, you're not referring to we have malachas like Shabbos.
Yeah, it means
You don't go to the store, you don't do.
You don't work to earn a living.
It's like my type of thing, I guess. No, or something similar. It's
Now it says to close the stores, even the food stores. Now all these fast days are Mondays and Thursdays. So it says this is as far as the stores go between Monday and Thursday. On Mondays, they're allowed to open up the store towards the night time, people buy food. So even though the stores are closed the whole day, but towards the late, So then they open up the stores. People should be able to buy food at the end of the fast. But on Hamishi, they're allowed to open up the stores. All these things about closing stores doesn't apply. The food stores doesn't apply to Thursday because people have to get ready for Shabbos. So they do open the stores on Thursdays. Only Mondays they're closed until late afternoon.
צורך ציבור.
It's food to eat.
That's what it
Food to eat. So on Thursday you have to get ready for Shabbos food. So that they didn't make the issur to close the food stores on Thursdays, only on Mondays. And the Mondays also they have to get ready to eat at night because they're gonna eat something to break the fast.
Also Mondays it's open in the afternoon. That before.
Matin, it says the word matin.
There's only fast. All these fast days, Mondays and Thursdays, not Sunday. There's no fast days. The fast days are only Mondays and Thursdays. We say 7 fast days. We don't mean 7 days in a row. We mean 7 days. That's Monday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday. It's going to be so.
Yeah.
Here it says that on the Mondays they close the food stores until late in the day to get ready for the eating at night. So they open up towards the end of the day. And on Shabbos, on Thursday, they don't close the stores at all in order to be able to get ready for
All
Shabbos.
day it's open on Thursday. That's the afternoon. That is,
Yeah. Now it's fast already days, and it still didn't rain. Well, then they can't continue fasting. But they minimize the business, the binyan of Benatiya, they minimize building and planting, and various sin of Nisua, they minimize marriages. It doesn't mean that it's also legami. It's saying, and I don't think it's also legami. It says mamatan over here. I'm not sure what mamatan means. They minimize. And also they don't greet each other. This is all giving Adam and Azov on the Makom. This is if they're in Nidui. They're acting as if they're in Nidui. The fact that Hashem is not giving them rain, it's like Hashem is putting them in Chayrim. We have to act like that. But like people that are like when Hashem is angry, we have to humble ourselves as if we're being screamed at, so to speak. Then it says, but the Yechidim, we saw in the beginning that the Yechidim, the Talmidei Chachamim, they started fasting earlier than everybody else. Here it says they continue fasting also after everybody else. Has 13 fasts, 3, 3, and 7. The Yechidim, they continue even afterwards also. The Yechidim, Chozim, Musalim, Ash, Yitzin, they continue fasting until Nisan is over. But then it's too late. Yes, Nisan, the Bishamim, Sim, Klala, Shenema, Allah, Kesachitim, Mayam. But if even these fast, and then it still didn't rain, then it's not good if it rains. If it rains, then like it says in the Pasuk by Shmuel, that over there was the time of Ketzich. And he said that it should rain. That was a way to show that Hashem was angry. Okay, Adkan. Yashikach, everybody. Thank you. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes with Navi. Today's not Hillim. Today's Wednesday. Give a room for yesterday's filling in. Oh, I ended for nothing. Oh, no.